Good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt at Poke Checking Cards. Just kidding. It's the Poke Check podcast. This is episode 5. Really excited to get this one going because I've brought back a returning co-host. The first time that's happened on here. Series 1 has come out. A lot of people are excited about that, including my buddy Logan, who is so jazzed about Series 1. He's probably picked up every Kane parallel that he could find at top-notch prices. Am I correct on that?
Not at all.
Logan, it's great to have you back, man. It was awesome having you on here for the very first episode. That's still got the most views, so you are currently the most popular co-host so far. But we've had some interesting discussions pregame, and I'm excited to share that with everybody. But just right off the top here, hot take. We finally got Series 1 out. It's a few months delayed, we should say. Normally, when does Series 1 drop in past, like preseason even?
I would think September. Well, first off, it's nice to be back. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Invitation. But yeah, I think it'd be like probably September, November.
Okay.
Because I could always remember it coming out right around the time that Call of Duty came out.
Okay, that's a good gauge to figure that out. So here we are. We're months late. From the looks of it, based upon the serial numbers that we were chatting about, it looks like whatever production company, printing company they've been using in the past for all their other products are back making Upper Deck cards, which makes sense on some levels, which we'll talk about. But how are you feeling about Series 1 coming out? Because I feel like as a collector, this is my first time like really being jazzed for a new release that I know Flurry's a big part of. But just seeing the overall hype in general for a release, how are you feeling about it so far?
Overall, it's just another product. That's where I'm at. And yes, it's kind of late to finally get the young guns from this year's class, but I mean, I'm not really pumped about it. It's just like, just another release, really. Primarily because, I mean, I look at the Blackhawks and what young guns and stuff that they have out there. It's nothing for me to go, I gotta have.
All right. Well, yeah, their last big young guns was Kevin Lankinen from Series 2, if I remember correctly. And I was very happy to get one when I did, because before Fleury got there, I was very much a fan of him. Not that I'm not, but he's not really playing a whole lot, so I don't get to see him. But you know what? Getting this out, I think, and having Fleury be in a lot of the stuff that they released, a lot of the insert sets with parallels and some unannounced stuff, that's definitely got me excited, because this is my first go around with him being in that kind of stuff. Because I went from when we first started talking to Allure. He wasn't in Allure, famously not in Metal Universe, the base set. So in seeing him in O-Pee-Chee and being in some unannounced stuff there, seeing him in Upper Deck and some unannounced stuff there has got me pretty excited just to kind of follow the product. But I guess we're, coming at it from different sides as far as the way that we're collecting it. Are there any players though that you have kind of seen, on the young guns front? Because that's what everybody's chasing, is the young guns that are kind of following a little bit, seeing how they're doing sales wise, or no?
Not at all.
Not at all, huh?
Not at all. I honestly, I've looked at a few Kane inserts and stuff like that, but I haven't. I'm kind of at looking at the non-serial number stuff at a part where, all right, let's just keep an eye on things that you're interested in and just see how many there are, how many come up in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Because I don't want to necessarily be the first sale, but it's just I really haven't. I haven't really thought about it too much, really.
Well, question for you too, just for anybody that listens to this that it might be new to like release day of products that are highly collected. A lot of people, like, it's accessible by a wide variety of the hobby. You've got your group breakers, of course, that always do stuff, but it's accessible to even a young person buying a box.
Yep.
Or retail even, but then a lot of people break it on YouTube. Like I've seen, probably 20 to 30 boxes being broken on YouTube, and just looking at it from that perspective and like not wanting to be the first person to buy certain things. What's your approach if there's something that you do see that you really want of Kane? Are you able to kind of sit back a lot of times, just because in the past you've seen Series 1 and Series 2 come out for the last since Panarin, right? 16, what year was he?
15,
16?
Yeah.
So you've seen 7 years of releases come out. What's the smartest play for collectors when they're chasing, whether it's a Young Guns or parallel out of 25, an unannounced like Fanimation maybe? Like what's the smart play, you think? I mean, is it better to grab them first come first serve because the price might be low, or is it better to wait it out, you think?
Oh, I mean, Fanimation, that being an unreleased set, I guess it's, if you feel like that's a price you can't pass up, then that's where you're gonna buy it. Like, I've seen a few of those, and somebody was offering $60. I think it was on Instagram, $60 for a Cam Atkinson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Fanimation, and I was like, well, that's actually not a bad price for something that's super short printed or a case hit or something along those lines. So that, I'm thinking from a Kane perspective, if there was a Kane Fanimation like that, what would I feel comfortable buying it at? I don't know.
Right.
If it was 80, yeah. But then
If you
again,
got a Kane Fanimation for 80, I would like lose sleep over it, to be honest
like,
with you.
the same part is, I think you desire the Fanimations a little bit better than I do, and
Right.
have a appreciation for him. Whereas
Right.
me, I mean, we've talked about this. It's just another card, primarily because he's got so much
Right.
out there. So
Right. Well, I was thinking too, like we were chatting before we went live here, and like I'm going to show some pictures here. This is we'll go to the Young Guns here afterwards, but I want to talk about these right here because we're talking about unannounced cards, and that's been a real hot topic for me. Seeing O-Pee-Chee and MVP made a mistake with the postseason card in that flurry, paid too much for it. But then in like O-Pee-Chee and then this with Upper Deck, these are unannounced cards, and so when these come out within the first week of release, we're only 4 days in now, 5 days in. I feel like we're in its essence kind of setting the market. Those of us that are after cards like this are having the opportunity to set that market. So I can't decide, do I make a play for a flurry now, or do I wait until the market's kind of flooded itself with them and other products have come out? Will they go down? Like, I guess that's kind of where I'm stuck, and if you were after a Kane of this, do you wait it out, or are you thinking like, okay, these unannounced cards tend to increase in value, so I should grab it now? Like, I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that, because I keep going back and forth,
Yeah, it's tough because when I saw that immediately, I thought of the Madano and the older ones that came out at that time, but I have the same thought process with like, well, what about the older basketball? They had those as well, did they not? Or we
and
saw
baseball.
we saw a lot of that metal universe come out, and why is the PMGs so expensive? Well, look at the basketball, and we see that with all these retro sets coming out, that the top dog market has an influence on other sports. So as far as that, you got to think like, okay, how well or how is that first, how are the earlier editions of this card doing? Think about it from that perspective, and then maybe that'll help you influence your idea. Because Kane's, if Kane came out with one, I would be trying to get it under 50, but it's not something like I gotta have it. no. I mean, that's where I'm at with that.
Right. Well, it's tough too because
Yeah.
I grew up in the baseball market with these being the first jersey cards, the Griffey, the Ray Ordonez. There was a couple other guys in there. I can't remember, but they are now that Griffey. If you to find a copy of that card, even though it's just a plain little jersey,
Yep.
back then that was a pretty big deal.
Yep. Because they were so rare too.
Yes, and
Yeah.
without us knowing the print run on these, like for instance, there's also a patch version that looks like this. Here's the Svechnikov out of 20 or 15, excuse me.
Yep.
You can kind of guesstimate that maybe the jerseys are double that, knowing that they made just a ton of product.
Yep.
But I think the nostalgic piece that Upper Deck's going for with, like they did the PMGs, they're going to do them again, and I would be willing to bet big money that the essential credentials will come back around within the next couple of years, especially having, Gene Arena back there helping them make designs. So that's maybe the Flair Showcase Legacies. Like I feel like those are so important to bring back, and those of us that loved these growing up are going to get after them pretty heavily, So.
Yeah.
But it's. I mean, do you think it's cool that this design has come back?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I just wish being very negative here. But
never you.
I wish they would have sharpened the blades when they were cutting it. But I don't know. I just see a lot of I get nervous with the black edging, and then the minor chips or whatever come up on them. Come up on the card.
I see what you're trying to say. No, for sure, man. But it's good. It might be the paper stock too. They're having trouble getting that thicker paper stock that's on the top of the card, and but I like that they're sticking to the original design. I think that's really important for them to keep bringing that back. Just look at when the Jordan brand brought all those retros back, when that started being a thing, and people were scooping those up like crazy. I think nostalgia plays a huge role in the age group that we're in, and people that are the generation above us that are still collecting, maybe your dad's age and below, they remember these too being a big deal. So I think it's important to keep doing that. But I love that they brought these back, and I think these are going to be highly desired by collectors. I think if you're a player collector, having a jersey card or a patch with this retro design, you would definitely want to get after it. You've been seeing Young Guns since 2016, 17, or 15, 16. How do you like this design overall of the Young Guns?
Well, it's different. I mean, have we had a vertically designed before like that?
Yeah, the last one was in 07, 08 with Carey Price and Carey Price, Halak. I really like that design. A lot of people don't. Kane and Taze. You're right, but I mean that's the last one that I can remember, and with it on the side like that.
Yeah.
Having a full borderless 3/4 of the card be the picture of the player, and then we're looking at Spencer Knight here for those that are listening. I mean I think there's a lot to be desired here with how much you see of the player, but I mean, I guess it's all personal preference. Do you like it better than last year with the blue on the bottom?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not really too. It's a neat looking card. It draws my attention. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, wow, that's different."
Mm-hmm.
But as far as putting it above others, not really. I mean, it's nice that it's different because you kind of associate every year of Young Guns with one or two players. If you look back, like you're looking back at 15, 16, you got the McDavid, or you look back at 13, 14, and you kind of think McKinnon or stuff like that. So like this being just a hair bit different, that's kind of neat.
Right. Well, I think we can all agree that the two top dogs are the two top dogs are Trevor Zegras, and I know for me as a goalie, I think the number one goalie is Jeremy Swayman, who's from Alaska, which is great. Spencer Knight's probably right underneath him. I'm forgetting another player. Cole Caulfield, of course. He's starting to play well again, so he's got some desirability there. But for me, top 3, it looks like what, Zegras, Caulfield, Swayman, or am I missing someone in there?
I mean, is Swayman better than Spencer Knight?
I mean, his pricing shows that, but a part of it is he's playing for Boston and he's
Yes.
playing well right now, whereas Spencer Knight is stuck behind Sergei Bobrovsky, who's been playing very well for them, and he's on a really good team. So he just hasn't had a chance to play as much. So I think Spencer Knight is equally as good, but he's still so young. He's only 20 years old, so I don't think we're going to see what his potential is until next year or the year after.
Yeah.
But,
and well, I mean, have we still seen Carter Hart's potential?
I don't know. He's on a really bad team. So is another goalie that we know very well on a bad team that can't play defense.
Look at Carter Hart's pricing, though. I mean,
the hockey market is so strange, man, because you got a lot of hype that is generated on a player like Carter Hart going into the post-COVID season. And I mean, his prices were crazy. I mean, I grabbed his Young Guns for 60, and they're still sitting at what, 30 right now? 40?
I'll take a look there. But it's just one of those for what he's done.
Yeah, he hasn't done a lot, but he plays for Philly, and there's a pretty strong fan market there for that team. But yeah, as far as like the strength of the Young Guns class 2, every year I feel like there's 5 guys that you can legitimately get excited about that you pull from each series. Series 1, it was obviously Laffy was everybody's number 1, but after that there wasn't like a strong 1A 2. I mean, obviously now it's Jason Robertson, who you can still get pretty dang cheap. His brother was one of Bowen Byram was another one. But other than that, even looking at Series 2, there's really nobody that's, unless I'm totally forgetting someone, there's nobody else that's like up there yet. Everybody's kind of just settled down to earth. Even Sorokin's prices are stupid cheap. Like I can't even believe how cheap his cards are for how talented of a goalie he is. Really surprised at how cheap you can get a Sorokin Young Guns for. So
yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with the shortened season last year, because we didn't see all those players like in that season. So we're seeing a lot of. I kind of thought that would happen too. Is that like this year and then the next year we're going to see a lot of those players. I mean, look at Jordan Kyrou. And he's now coming out of his little shell or little So, and he's the same year as Carter Hart, right?
I can't remember. You know a little bit more than me on some of those guys.
I think he's the same year as like Elias Pettersson. I believe that's the same year.
But okay, that's 18, 19, I want to say, right? 18, 19.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's what the fun thing about Young Guns, is you can get a bunch of. I mean, when I got Jason Robertson in a pack, I was like, who the heck is this guy? And I just kind of like threw him in my binder, But then being able to track these guys as they're improving and playing well and just getting playing time has been really fun. Obviously when you get a guy that has the letter D next to his name, you're like, dang it, like the odds of a defenseman being worth anything in the hobby, like they're great players, don't get me wrong, but that's the one thing that I learned off the get-go. But it's been fun. So to track these guys, and a lot of these guys in this product we won't really know about until a year or 2 from now if they're going to start making some noise. So cool. Okay, well, and then I don't know if you've seen the exclusives or the high glosses of these, but they look amazing. And the canvases too, the Young Guns canvas look really, really nice with the red on there. They really stand out to me. I think that's a really strong design. I did want to show the Fanimation here. I know you're not a huge fan of these, no pun intended, but this release is different than the past Fanimations, right?
Yeah.
It's like a superimposed player over a design with there's no real art within it. I mean, it's edited, the photo is edited a bit, but it's not an artistic rendition as opposed to the earlier versions of these.
Yeah. I like, if I had to rate it, I think the full body ones were way better. But
especially with like the iconic backgrounds, like the Kane, he has one. He's there's like the city of Chicago behind him. I assume it is, right?
I would think. I don't know. I've seen it like once or twice.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to show those off, and for those that are watching on video, if you haven't seen these yet, there's the checklist doesn't seem to be as strong as in the past, but I think they're trying to get other players in there that haven't had a Fanimation yet, like the Colorado and Vegas players like Mark Stone is in there. Maybe Kadri, guys that played in the Outdoor Classic are in there as opposed to like Fleury and McKinnon and Marchessault and guys like that.
Sure.
So, but I will say for me, the high gloss, this is the high gloss version. The base cards look really, really cool because for the first time we've got two different pictures on the front of the card. And that's something I talked about in the past on a previous episode. I want to say that I maybe talked about that with collects, is that we don't see a lot of variation in design. A lot of times, like, this is the photo that's on the front, and on the back it's the very same photo and then a little bit of stats, and that's it.
Yep.
I like that they added a different photo in the bottom left of the card. So for me, this is one of the best designs that Upper Deck's done in the last 5 years since Fleury was on Vegas, I would say.
Yep. No, I like that. It looks really nice. Because I think I only have one high gloss of Kane, and the only difference is that it's a little bit shinier. That's it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's nice to see something different.
Yeah, for sure. I just love that the way that this the gold foil complements. Like, the only thing that would have made this photo better is if he was wearing that alternating, the yellowish gold jersey that the Knights wore on the weekends.
The red and yellow, that one.
No, there's like a all gold jersey.
Oh, yeah.
That would have made this look even better with the gold high gloss. But yeah, I'm quite excited to have that in the collection here soon. Had to jump on the chance to add that card. So let me see here. We've got so another insert that came out that caught your eye that you asked me about was the honor roll, and this is the what version is this out of 250? What are they calling this?
This is just the rainbow.
You're digging this design, right? Was this something that kind of stood out to you when you were looking through the Kane cards that are available?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. I like how it looks shiny on top and on bottom, and it sticks out a lot.
Those now, when you talked about with Kane cards, you're pretty selective on what you go for, right? Like, you're not just going and grabbing. From my perspective, I'm trying to get what I can because coming from Fleury being in nothing and now being in a lot of stuff, I get excited about that. But these are the types of cards like that you do stop at when you're scrolling and go, oh, here we go. Here's something that would look really nice in the collection. Are you? I'm just trying to get, it's out of 250. So are you able to wait on even something like this, even though that you still don't see a lot of them posted because you're an EPAC guy. So even as nice as these look on EPAC, they probably won't look that good. Do you see these coming down in price, or do you think because of how good they look, they're going to kind of maintain that upper 20s, 30s price range?
Oh, I was even thinking upper 20s, 30s.
Really?
I mean, maybe for something like Zegras, but I'll wait. I would wait till EPAC on that. Or if it came on CompC early or something like that, or just somebody had a low buy it now for what I would think it would be going for in about 2 months from now. Yeah. Okay. There's 250 of them. I mean, there's a lot.
That's what's been kind of strange to see is I've seen 2 Fleuries. In the last few days out of 250. I haven't seen any others. And that maybe because people are like, I'm keeping this. It's not going anywhere. Yeah. But yeah, EPAC is one thing that I love to be able to look forward to. And they also did a gold out of 25, which we were talking about. It looks like there could be a little bit of texture down here. with the grooves, but it's definitely a different style of rainbow. And I would argue that the 250s look even nicer than this, and they should have flip flopped.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see the hollow be up here on the gold. It
Mm-hmm.
just because I believe it's called what, golden rainbow, that
Mm-hmm.
one. And
Yeah,
okay, well, it's half rainbow essentially this way.
yeah. It's
So
my approach to these have been, it was different when the flurry became available. When any card that you want to grab, I think you already have a price in mind that you know that you're comfortable with grabbing a card for.
mhm.
And even though it's a new release, I think you have to be realistic with what you're going to drop on cards. And so I don't know. For me, my approach has been to try to get as close to that price range as I want. Like with Swayman and with Knight, I know that the prices will slowly come down. You would think
Yep.
they would. And I had prices in mind that I knew I wanted to pay for both after seeing what people were paying at first. Like, the first few that went out there went for like 100 or 70 or whatever, some crazy amount, just so people could be the first to own them. But I was able to get them for the prices that I wanted. So I feel like
Mhm.
when a release like this comes out, the patience game might be the better play as opposed to the pull the quick trigger type deal.
Yeah, I mean, my rule, well, rule of thumb, but lately, let's say the last couple of years is, yeah, I usually buy a box of Upper Deck, but then I
Mm.
think like, okay, how much does that box cost? What was it last year when with Laffy? I think it came out at 150.
Yeah, and that's kind of
And
where
it
we're
was
sitting
like,
this year too, right? Like
yeah,
120,
it's a
130.
little bit much for my liking. So I mean, what if I bought, let's say, a couple months down the road? Oh, I got Zegras for 130, and I could buy uh like the Kane honor roll card for, let's say, 8 or whatever. Well, that's all adding up to about 138. Not the
Yeah,
price, and it's cheaper than the price of the box. So could I pull? I could pull those cards, but I'm saying likely not
yeah,
likely.
not
And
likely.
you know, I became a little bit more. I'm not taking risks and opening packs. Sure, I'll open a few here and there just to get that itch, but
Right.
don't. But
EPAC is tough to stay away from, man. I have to limit myself to like 2 or 3 packs. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I got a couple cards to
yeah,
in my inventory, but I see what you're saying, and that's a fun segue for us because you and I lately, like when we first started talking, we were more lined up a lot closer to like the way that we were collecting, as far as just targeting cards of a specific player more than anything else.
yep.
Um, but I would be curious for you to tell everybody kind of how your direction as a collector has changed a little bit, because it's so easy to kind of be aimlessly wandering through the world of collecting, and that card looks cool and that card looks cool, and just of whoever, and not
Mm-hmm.
having much direction. At first, when you were telling me about it, I was like, that kind of sounds like you're doing that, but you're not just wandering aimlessly through the fields of the hobby, but you've kind of changed your focus a little bit. So like, what to you, what caused that change to happen?
Well, for the most part, I'm always keeping an eye on for Patrick Kane cards, but the thing is I get to a part or a point like those cards that I'm looking for aren't popping up, or they're just not popping up, or they're a little bit out of my price range or something like that. So how can I still keep an eye on the market and still collect? So, for example, yeah, I used to go to a card show and and say, oh, I'm only looking for Kane. Well,
Hmm.
that limits everything I'm looking for. Not that I think of the national. I was only looking for Kane, and I only found one card that I was interested in, luckily.
Hmm.
And it just, well, now how about you look for Kane, DeBrincat, Let's you throw Aho in,
Hagel.
Hagel, Flurry. And I could throw Ovechkin, McDavid, Crosby in there
Yeah,
also.
who's not looking for those guys? Like,
Exactly, but
yeah, to be honest.
open it up a little bit more and just kind of look at who's. I mean, a hard part, who's cheap right now, essentially, with respect to what they've done in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, everybody can say, yes, Barkov, Huberdeau, and we can even throw Aho in there.
Aho's definitely in there still.
That low market team part, but it's, I mean, who's going to win the Stanley Cup at the end of the year? We don't know, but who's going to make a long playoff push because they've done it in the past?
Carolina in Florida.
Carolina. I mean,
Dallas maybe got a lot of veteran players on that team. So
yeah, maybe. I don't know. And I would overall thinking like, okay, does Tampa have an opportunity? Well, of course they do.
Always.
Tampa. But I mean, the two teams that could make a little bit more damage is Carolina and Florida. They've been in the playoffs the last couple of years. Now they just have to. All right, it's time to actually win a couple series.
Right.
You got the Leafs still. They're going to be a contender, but which Leafs team is going to show up?
Yeah, and same thing with Edmonton, and
Exactly.
the same story. New York is another one to watch out for. I spent some time looking at Igor Shesterkin, and there's talk of him winning the MVP as well as the best. He's been their best player.
Yep.
So you get a good goaltender that can carry you a long ways in the playoffs. But he's not in that like pick up some cards for cheap. He's well past that.
Yeah.
I looked at his young guns, and I know I bought mine for $44, and I thought that was expensive at the time a year and a half ago, and that was like a third or a fourth of what it costs to buy one now. So that caught me off guard a bit for sure. But so I mean, kind of what I'm hearing you say too is it's been more fun because you've picked up most of the Kane cards that you want, and what's left, which as you've talked about, you're a bit more narrowed. As far as Marc-Andre Fleury, I kind of just like I grab a lot more because the variety of pictures are all different. I can find something to like with every base card, let alone the parallels and stuff. But with Kane, you're not seeing a whole lot for prices that you want to pay. So you've, in essence, either been forced to not buy anything at all or to kind of keep the ball rolling, start going and looking in other places to kind of keep collecting fun for you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I would say so. And it just, keeps me, I don't know, in it, let's say. Keeps me in it. And I get
following the league too, right? Like following all the different happenings and stats and whatnot.
And then the nice part about it too is, well, if you're looking up a player like Aho, you're gonna make a purchase based off of somewhat of a research. You're looking at the Aho market. All right, well, how much does let's say an Emerald Surge go for Kane? Okay, well, how much does the Emerald Surge go for Matthews? Okay, now look at Aho's, and you can kind of manage and understand a little bit where everybody's at.
Right.
And I mean, Aho is what I just looked it up the other day. I think he's at 90.91 points per game or something like that.
0.91 points a game. Yeah, he has his surges though, because I happen to have him on fantasy.
But that's like total stats, and for the whole league, the time he's been in the league. And I don't know, I was just trying to follow that a little bit closer and try to figure out, okay, once he hits over that 1 point per game, what's going to happen to his prices? I mean, is that the threshold that makes a superstar a superstar? I mean, if you think about it, if someone's going to score a point per game, that's actually pretty good. How are we going to shut this guy down?
Yeah.
If we have that, I mean, is that what makes him great?
It's funny you mentioned that because I was on my fantasy team. I've got the number one team. My goaltending's not good. And I'm saying that while having Fleury on my team. It's not him that's not good. It's their stats are not good. I've got him, Carter Hart, and John Gibson. So then none of them are playing on good teams. So I have to get lucky and hope that one of them goes crazy. But my skaters are crazy. Somebody dropped Johnny Gaudreau. Somebody dropped Pedersen. So I added both of them. Somebody dropped Pavelski and Jack Eichel. So I've got all those on the same team. So my skaters are fine. But I was looking at Johnny Gaudreau yesterday.
Yep.
And I looked at points, how many, like, what is he at per game? And he's at like 1.2. And he is another guy who I bought a Young Guns of his a long time ago for $30. And I'm like, okay, what is his? And it's getting to 50 now. So, like, I feel like the Young Guns price really gets to show you what this person's market is doing. And Aho, too, like you said, was sitting at $30, $35 for like a year and a half. I'm like, this guy is one of the best players in the league, but he's on a small market team. He's a better player than Svechnikov, I would argue, or at least equal. But yet Svechnikov's prices are 1.5 times higher. Like, what the heck, man? Like, give me a break. So
let me cut you off here.
Yeah,
I didn't realize Svechnikov was so young.
Is he only like 23 still?
No, he's like 21.
For real?
Dang. Yeah, that's what I looked up.
That's probably why then.
I did a little compare and contrast between Aho and Svechnikov prices, and I was like, "Holy cow!" I feel like Svechnikov was probably 22, 23 years old, but no, he's like 21.
Okay, well then that's probably part of it. Then, well, answer your own question if you would. Like, with the point per game, is that the threshold? Because in my mind, Aho is already on a 1 point per game. Right before COVID hit, he was above that. Like, he was on his way to scoring 50 goals in the season.
Yeah.
And yet his prices didn't do anything. So is that the threshold, or is it more than that with the point per game?
I don't know. I'd have to really figure. Yeah, I think, well, obviously, you got to do more research to figure that out. But that's where I would start, is looking at, like, okay, let's look at all the active players in their points per game and go from there.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to look at from a statistical analysis of some sort like that, if that makes any sense. Well, I mean, obviously you're going to weed out the guys that are like older, or because right now, I mean, you look at Braden Point. I don't know what his points per game is or whatever, but I mean, he's got 2 Stanley Cup and his prices are still just a little bit north of Aho's.
Barely? Like, they're not. What's his Young Guns sitting at currently?
I would think it was 50. I don't know. I'd have to actually take a look, because I mean, the last time I bought it was 2 years ago, and I think I paid $30 for it.
Right. Yeah, I paid $30 for mine, and then moved it right after they won the cup, and it was close to $50. So it sat there. I mean, Vasilevsky's obviously his skyrocketed. His was $70 for me, and now it's sitting at what, $300, $275 for a raw copy.
Yeah, like right now it's $40 for a raw, essentially, for Braden Point.
Okay. Well, I think this is a good discussion. I mean, I try not to get into I just don't like the word investing. I think that's like, if you are solely collecting for that reason, that's not people that I tend to want to interact with as much. But I think when you're looking at having collecting be fun, I think the young, like, going for cards of players, obviously Young Guns is, my friend Jimmy has talked about that being the most enjoyable and fun way to get into the hobby. It is fun to kind of look at the correlation between hype, performance, and winning. Those 3 things: hype, performance, winning. And then the Young Guns prices are just prices of these players. And sometimes there's some correlation issues. Aho being one of them. If they do win a cup, I think he and Svechnikov, Freddie Anderson, who else on that team is, Jordan Stahl, not as much. He's a great player. He's a good captain, but he's not Trocheck maybe, but you'll definitely see a huge bump. I think Johnny Gaudreau should be thrown into that category of, like, guys that are still undervalued. Like, he's always had a lot of hype behind him. But they're playing so well this season that I see them being legitimate contenders. They've got great goaltending. They've got amazing defense, and then their offenses, Lindholm and Gaudreau and Kachuk, excuse me.
Yeah. Would you throw Dougie Hamilton for the Carolina in that
Well,
category.
he's on a different team now. He got traded. He got signed by somebody else. He would have
He's
been if he was on Carolina.
he's on Carolina,
What?
isn't he?
No, dude. Unless he got traded back. I thought he was on the Devils.
Oh,
Yeah, he's on the New Jersey Devils now. Yeah,
my
he
bad.
was on Carolina. No, that's speaking of
Okay.
research, folks. Here's somebody who needs to do more research. No, but
Okay. All right.
following defensemen is impossible. I would be
No.
the same. I don't know where any good defenseman is except Cale Makar, Devin Tays, both on the same team, and Nurse, and then some really cruddy defender that's on your team right now that can't seem to stop a good shot from happening against Fleury, but we'll just not name him.
Here's what happened. I just watched the Devils and who is it? Who's just playing? Devils and Blues.
Devils and Blues, and they beat them 3-2. Yeah.
And Dougie Hamilton ended up scoring, but the other night I was watching the Carolina and the Penguins.
Gotcha.
And that's where I was like,
oh. That's all good, man. But I think, you know, when we had that discussion, what other players do we see that are, because it is fun. It's a fun achievement to go, which players can I spend a little bit of money on, have their cards increase in value, move them, and then get a card of my favorite player, or in your case, DeBrincat, Kane, Tays, or whatever, Hagel, grab a card of those guys down the road and not have to go, am I overpaying for this? Because nothing hurts more than really overpaying for a card or paying for a card, and then the next one comes up for auction and it goes for like a third or a half of the price you paid, and you're just like, oh, you know. So I think those types of goals, as far as like looking for, you know, Aho cards or Gaudreau or, you know, Jason Robertson, the goalie front for me, Freddie Anderson, obviously. I think being on a team as good as Jacob Markstrom, his cup stuff, I think his cup stuff is super undervalued. So guys like that, and then, you know, you follow the player, you're excited to see how they do in the playoffs, obviously, and they end up winning. It was great having the card, but now you can use that card as leverage or whatever to help you get something that you really, really want to keep forever. So that's kind of my approach to it. I mean, are you in the same line as doing it that way?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I bought Kevin Lankin and Young Guns about within a couple of weeks after it came out for $15.
That's what I was paying for mine. The one I paid.
And you know, I knew that they were going to be cheap when they hit CompC and stuff like that, but I just never. I just was like, yeah, just pick it up, get it out of the way, and I was happy to have it right when I caught it, but it was just one of those where I'm like, I should have waited, but it's, you know, not a big deal.
How often does that even out, though? You know, I think that's a lesson that I try to teach myself, and then like if you, well, like overpay for one, but then how often have you bought a Young Guns and it's gone up double? Yeah, evens out.
Yep, and here's one, you know, one in a group chat that I'm in is these guys. I was talking, we were just random chat, but they were saying like how him and a bunch of buddies will get together and buy like 3 or 4 of the dollar Young Guns at the beginning of the season just to see if they got up.
Interesting. Just kind of just to like have it be like a competition within yourself to see if you can find someone who goes up in value.
And that was pretty interesting for them to, you know, for him to say that, because it was like one of those where, yeah, a lot of them happen, because I put together the whole 2017-18 set, Series 1 and 2, and I'm missing a few of the SP Authentic ones, but at the time, who was in there? You know, you got DeBrincat, Besser, Hischer, Clayton Keller.
Trying to think of the goalies that are in there. My Young Guns binders out there.
The goalies that were in there.
Is that Corpusalo and Merz Lincolns and all those guys? Or was that a year? That's before them. That's the year before.
Yeah. They had that. The Knights had, like, what was his name? Logan Thompson.
No. It was Dylan.
Yep.
Dylan Ferguson. And the other one. There was 2 of them. It was Dylan Ferguson and guy who played for the Penguins recently.
And I
who, of
think
course,
I
said I
think
can't remember his name.
Gorgiev was an update.
Oh, yep, he was update. Was David Ayers in that one as well?
Oh, I
Or
don't know. He might have been. I didn't get that one, but it just whatever. And then I put them all away. I kind of have a little Young Guns box. I don't know what to do with most of them, but whatever. So then I'll take it out and be like, oh yeah, Martin Nietzsche's, and then you got Nedeljkovic.
Nedeljkovic.
Yep.
Nedeljkovic.
And then
Alex
he's in
Nedeljkovic.
there,
Yeah.
and then there's you go back through and you're like, oh wow, these guys are now $15 Young Guns, and
Yep.
they're just sitting there. I didn't know that they were going to do that well, but it's just one of those things that it does make sense. Is if you do your research on a player, you could potentially. I mean, if you wanted to do it that way, is like maybe you might make a couple bucks, and you're not doing it to make the money. It's not
Right.
the goal. Just kind of a small little bet you can place with yourself.
And that's one thing that all collectors need to have. I feel like we need to have some kind of motivation. Like, why are we spending the amount of money that we're spending? Because I think we can all agree we sometimes spend maybe more at times because we kind of get caught up in the hype of different things. But I think, yeah, it's kind of like having a competition within yourself to try to find those players that are gonna do something. I did that. I made an Excel spreadsheet before I got into Flurry. I bought, I want to say that I spent, and this is after one of the COVID payouts. I think it was the second one. I spent $500 total, and I went out and I targeted not the Kane, Tays, McDavid, not that upper echelon, the upper 15%. I was going after those guys in the middle. And the Patrick Laine, the Aho, the Svechnikov, and I was tracking their values and how I was doing. And I mean, I was before I got rid of some of them, I was up like, I think I got a Makar for $60. I got a Nick Suzuki for 50. I think I was up like $300 at the time, and so it was really fun to do that. And I think if anybody's listening to this that's kind of feeling like Logan, where you're like, well, I've kind of got everything I want in my player, whether it's goalies or all players in general, I think it's really fun to do that with Young Guns. They are the most trackable cards as far as sales go, and they're fun to collect, and they're not going to break the bank. You were talking to me about that. Like, they're still cheap relative. Like, even the Zegras and Caulfield, they're just over $100. So you're not looking at Laffy prices of $250 out of the gate, thankfully. So
I haven't looked at any of the newer Young Guns prices at all. I'll let it settle down for a bit, and it'll balance itself out.
Well, we're looking at the Ducks. They're not in the playoff race right now, are they? They are actually. They're kind of sitting on the verge.
I couldn't tell you. As far as games, Blackhawks.
They're too far back.
Blackhawks and Kings, I think, are the only two that I've been really watching. And the reason why I put the Kings in there because they're always on at like 10:30 at night. I'm like, throw it on.
Okay, so I'm looking at Anaheim. They are points wise. They are where's the points? They are 4 points out of the 8th seed, which is Dallas. And then, of course, Montreal, Caulfield's prices are probably going to come down a bit, depending on how well he plays at the end of the season. So you look at all the big Young Guns. The only one that I could see having a big jump just based upon like where the team is from this year is Spencer Knight. If Bobrovsky gets hurt and they bring up Knight and he plays and does well, you got Jeremy Swayman, who's on the 7th seed, Boston Bruins, but the 9th seed is Columbus, and they are 13 points behind Boston and 10 behind at Washington for the 8th seed. So I don't see Boston dropping out of the playoffs. They could move all the way up to the 4th seed if Pittsburgh or New York falters. So, and then there's also Nashville. There was a Young Guns. That's the like sleeper one, I would say. There's a guy for Nashville that's got a Young Guns in there. I can't remember his name. Ziri was talking about him on his channel, and he pulled one. Tanner Jeannot. That's kind of the sneaky one, but yeah, there's really just nobody that, because they don't have a Byfield. Byfield's got a canvas, but he doesn't have a regular one. So other than that, I don't see anybody that's gonna have a big jump in the playoffs, at least not off the top of my head.
I don't know. Just looking at this again, this ones that stand out to me: Cole Caulfield, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Yep, that price is indicative of him having a lot of potential because he's on a terrible team.
Jamie Drysdale. He's standing out. Joe Vellino.
The one on Carolina seems to be selling well too. Is that like Pinto or Shane Pinto or something like
He's with
that?
Senators. Shane Pinto. I think he was a UND
Okay.
guy.
No, who am I? I'm thinking of. There's a guy with a shorter name that has a Young Guns from Carolina that's done. I've seen people, at least asking price has been a little bit
Joey
high for
Keane.
stuff. Who?
Joey Keane.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah,
That Mike Keane's son.
maybe. Yeah. So anyway, to kind of wrap up that discussion, I think in general, Young Guns are a really fun place to go for just kind of tracking and setting that kind of challenge within yourself. Can you find players that are you're going to be able to, even if you get one for $1 and it becomes $2, that's 100% increase in value. So,
Yeah,
that's always fun.
And the other part too is, I mean, maybe you do that and you build some confidence. Like, hey, well, here's my success rate, and now let's take a step further. Maybe we'll throw $100 at it.
Yeah, that's what
we
talk. Yeah. Go for the McDavid and see if it gains value or not.
No, not necessarily that, but no, just like think about this. I mean, you buy. I mean, I see this on the EPAC where this guy's got 70 of the Young Guns, 70 of the same guy. Where, okay, well, if you think about it, if that just increases by 50%, well, you're, how much per Young Gun is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean that's a play that I've seen people do. There's a very serious Nick Robertson collector out there, and I haven't been able to gauge if he's collecting Nick Robertson like I collect Fleury, or if he's like strictly saying this guy is going to be legit superstar.
Yep.
You're putting all your eggs in one basket, and
exactly.
you want to hope that it pays off. And so I'm going to throw a question at you, kind of a hot take here. Which player that's been a rookie within the last 3 years, we'll say, so 1920 to now, which one, regardless of price, if you were to buy 25 Young Guns, let's say 10, because I think that's more realistic. Nobody's going to go out and buy 25 of a guy that's $100. I think that's a little unrealistic. So 10, right. You're going to buy 10 Young Guns of a player right now, regardless of it being $1 or way up to the higher end. Who's the one guy you go for, you think, in your mind, if you're going to put all your eggs in a basket for $1,000 or less?
All my eggs in one basket. This is a tough question. 1920. I got to think of like who is. Well, 1920 was like what, Doc?
Yeah, correct.
19.
Because I'm thinking goaltenders and where I would go, and I think the answer for goalies is easy. Well, it's between two guys, maybe three.
Yeah. And
then skaters, I have somebody in mind based upon our discussions prior to the episode going live. I know who I would pick based upon his prices to get like 10 or more. Like Aho 2 years ago would have been the guy to just buy a bunch of, because I think he's starting to creep up in the 50 range, isn't he? I'm seeing 45 or so on his Young Guns.
Well, that's about right.
So he's increased by $10 in a year. So.
Yeah. It's tough because I'm looking at all the 1920 Young Guns right now, and I'd have to. My problem is like I don't have a lot of research because I'd like to look and see how old those guys are, you know. And I mean, right away, if we're talking about, I mean, Shesterkin stands out, being like, yeah, his stuff is up right now. But then you look at this perspective, it's like, okay, what about go look at a price of a Vasilevsky?
Well, he's
And
getting close. I mean, his Young Guns is about $70 away from being equal with Vasilevsky, which, if you think about it, makes no sense because
yep,
Vasilevsky's his accomplishments are far beyond anything Shesterkin is going to do. Although he will probably win the Vezina this year,
yeah.
Shesterkin. So
Holy cow, they're 200.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, man. I did just say that earlier, but maybe your train of thought was somewhere else because I mentioned it was like
No,
44 and.
because I looked up Vasilevsky's when that was what did it say, what, 250, 270?
Yeah, they're in that range. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it didn't really click with me that Shesterkin's was that much. But I think the best part that helps with him is that his was a update
Oh,
where
that you know what? That's right.
they didn't make as much.
So is that proven they don't make as much of the update ones? Is
No,
it
I
like
don't know.
half or a third?
I wouldn't think they did, considering, if you open a box, you're getting probably what, 4 or 5, 6 upper deck update cards, and you're just hoping for a young gun.
Oh, so it's not even Young Guns. All of them aren't even Young Guns. There might be one or two if you're lucky, and
Yeah,
SP Authentic.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe one. I don't really know. I mean,
Okay.
I just know that I've hit, I think, Matt Murray twice somehow.
Let's not talk about that goaltender on this channel. Yeah, that is quite interesting.
So that could be another reason that his are that much more, because I think wasn't Gorgiev update as well?
He was as well. Yep, the
Yeah.
year prior. Yep, or no, the same year, right?
Yeah,
Same
and
year.
no, 17, 18.
Oh,
Gorgiev.
that's right. That's right. Because he's just in a jersey. He's not even in his gear in that
Yep.
card.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably a smart choice. I mean,
But
I mean, if he wins the Vezina and MVP, that's the Hart Trophy, correct?
yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That you're going to see his Young Gun go over Vasilevsky's Young Gun just based off him being younger, him having hype, him doing it in New York, which is a big hockey market. His stuff's going to go crazy. Yeah, I wonder what his future watch is at, because I remember having the chance to get him at like 150, 170 a couple years ago or a year and a half ago. So it's substantially more, I'm sure. But I think for me, goaltender wise, a couple guys that stand out is Sorokin and Spencer Knight, because Florida is awesome. Obviously, Jeremy Swayman's a bit expensive, so I'm a little bit hesitant. I wish his prices were cheaper, especially being an Alaska goalie. I would love to collect an Alaska goalie, but I think non-investment wise, just like having that challenge, I think, for seeing which one, if you're going to have 10, I think Spencer Knight might be the one to go for, because I'm seeing his Young Guns keep coming down, and he's not playing right now in the NHL. Yeah, I think that might be the route to go. But skater wise, I think Jason Robinson's an easy choice. Like, he's absolutely killing it right now, and his Young Guns prices are just crazy, stupid low, in my opinion. But anyway, I thought I'd throw that one at you. I don't spend too much time looking at those types of things, those other markets, but I do have a Robertson Young Guns, and it allows me to be a little more clued in and zeroed in on how he's playing in general, So yeah, it adds a little bit more excitement to following the league too when you have cards of these players.
Yep. And I'm just looking at, that's another one that I'm kind of waiting for. Picked up a lot on the cheap is Barrett Hayton.
I don't know what that is.
He was like a first round pick, pick 5.
Okay.
And he got for the Coyotes out of that 18-19 class, I think, or 1920. But same as Doc and stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
I only picked him up because I knew he was a pretty big player with Team Canada juniors, and he was relatively young. Obviously learning about how well the Coyotes market does for cards. I, of course, didn't think about that. So
their goalie, what is his name? Krill something, right? Not Kirill, but it's like, oh man, he's got some sick setups. His gear looks amazing. He's actually been a pretty good player for them. but unfortunately they have probably one of the worst. Yeah, Kirill Vajmelka,
Hmm.
something like that. Anyway, I probably butchered his name. I'm gonna have to listen to somebody say it correctly, but yeah, that is if you're a fan of that team, you can probably get all their young guns for an amazing price. Like that's an easy team to collect. It's Coyotes. But I've got to get down to Arizona. I got a really good friend that lives there and go see a game when they're playing at Arizona State's hockey stadium, and it's 3,500 people, and you're basically sitting on top of those players.
Yep.
That's gonna be fun. Well, cool. I think the last kind of like 15, 20 minutes that we were going to go into, we had talked a little bit about a few different things, but I know I'm stuck on a question that I'm kind of curious about. Like we've talked about goals and how important that is, and I was really curious to hear your goals, like a goal that you have moving forward, because with Kane stuff kind of drying up for you and you not being super trigger happy on all the new release stuff. Where are you at currently with your Blackhawks stuff? Like, what is your goals with your Kane collection moving forward?
I don't. As far as goals, don't have too much. I'm trying to think. I mean, keep looking for cards that I find interesting. This serial number, the short print. It's and then we break it down from there. But it's obviously Taze is probably on his last couple of years. I don't know. Things could happen, but I do keep a spot for Taze, and it's more along the lines as it's going to complement my Kane card for I got a Emerald Surge of Kane. What's 30 to $40 for a Taze one to complement it. Right. I always kind of keep that in mind. Is I think the other couple cards that I have that complement each other is like their rookie sign of the times. And my Taze collection, I'm happy with where it's at. And there hasn't been anything of Taze that I'm like, oh, I need to have that. And so if I really want to find something, I just kind of go look in the DeBrincat area. And then, that's where I go with Kane. And I can't remember who I was talking to, but the one thing they said is think about who's the most collected on their team. Well, on any team. Well, are you surprised with their prices? I think about like Kane, how he could be expensive or how priced out he is or priced where he's at. And then think about, okay, well, there's DeBrincat. He's just, it's his first All-Star game and he's a little bit, he's lower than Kane, relatively speaking.
For sure.
Think about if Kane was gone, Taze is gone, Fleury's gone. Okay, who's going to be that guy that people are going to go after? Is it going to be Doc or is it going to be DeBrincat? Or, it's just kind of like who's their leader, essentially. I mean,
right.
So, I don't know. I'm starting to look at more. Before I was like, oh, looking at all DeBrincat rookies, and now I'm like, let's take a look at some DeBrincat non-rookie inserts or something like that, because that's where I'm at with that.
Okay. Yeah, that's looking at that logic. That's a pretty good decision. Hockey collectors, we collect differently than any of the other sports, and because look at the factors of the dynamics of teams and, performance and things are judged differently. But DeBrincat, he's a well-liked guy in the community. It sounds like he's a phenomenal goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
He has a knack for that. Made his first All-Star team, and when they have success again, who knows how long that's going to be? Would be great, honestly. If Fleury decides that he wants to stay and sign for another year and say he's going to retire after that, it would be nice if next year they found a way to put a really good team together and be competitive, and he's going to be at the forefront of that, no doubt, with Taze getting older and Kane's not getting any younger, not to say his skill set's any worse, but DeBrincat's the guy. And so that sounds like a pretty smart direction and a fun thing to do, because he's going to be getting into more and more new sets, and hopefully they continue to try new things, like they did with Allure, and like they've done with Metal Universe, and just things that are going to bring those designs to you that are kind of fresh and exciting to look at. So I think that sounds like a pretty good endeavor. I'm kind of in this tough spot where I know that my guy is not going to be playing for much longer. So, I assume Fleury will have plenty of post-career things made. He'll have Penguin stuff in the Cup. He'll probably have, because he's won a Vezina, so they tend to make cards for people who have won awards. He's 500 wins. He'll get into the Hall of Fame. Like, there's going to be, depending on if they Metal Universe, they start going the Legends route. I mean, beyond Patrick Waugh and, of course, Martin Brodeur, maybe Luongo, Fleury's up there and one of the more collectible goalies of all time. Carey Price is up there too. So I can imagine I will be able to look forward to certain newer cards, but still, hey, he's got plenty out there that I can kind of slowly pick stuff up. So I guess for me right now, I'm kind of in this like rainbowy phase, we'll call it, where whatever comes out, I try to find it at the price that I can get it at and grab it.
Sure.
So, and it's been a lot of fun, learning about all these different variations that come out with O-Pee-Chee or like an unannounced card in Upper Deck. Those types of things have kept me pretty excited about hockey cards lately. So, but yeah, as far as like an alternate player, I would love to say Jeremy Swayman would be that guy, but I don't like the Bruins, and I don't necessarily like his setup. I think I like listening to his interviews. He's a super cool young guy, but I think Spencer Knight will probably be the one that I gravitate towards. He's an American goalie as well. He's got great setup, plays on a great team. So I think that might be kind of the direction that I go if I do decide to hop off the Fleury train. It is tough to think, though, that he's going to retire soon. It's like, dang it, here I am getting into hockey big time. But
he'll find someone else.
I don't want to find anybody else, Logan.
Well,
no, I know what you mean, though.
I mean, we've all got to do it eventually. I mean, gravitate from who we collect or who we collected to who we collect now, Was
that a hard decision for you, though? Because it sounds like DeBrincat, as from what I've seen, you're kind of more zeroing in on him. Was that an easy transition for you, coming from being, having Kane be your main guy?
Not really. Well, yeah, it's easy because I'm still enjoying the Blackhawks collection. Still have, I find my Canes that I'm looking for, or wanting to find. Yeah, but as far as DeBrincat, it's like dude's a goal scorer, and I think the other part too is those exciting players. I tend to rather like more. I mean, being a Bears fan, the most exciting player to watch was Devin Hester. So.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Brian Urlacher just because he punished people on defense much.
Sure, but like as far as excitement, the changed the game.
Devin Hester, 100%.
And then Patrick Kane. It's the same type of player, and there's a picture out there that would be kind of cool to get signed. It's like of Devin Hester and Patrick Kane. They were doing like some photo shoot together.
Yeah, that would be kind of sick, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You have to get like a Photoshop thing done though with Kane, doing like your favorite picture of Kane and your favorite picture of Hester, and kind of like do some artistic background, have it printed, and then have them sign it. I think that would be pretty sick.
That would be pretty cool. Just it's one of those where, I mean, I think that's what I kind of gravitate toward and had the most impact. So, I mean, with DeBrincat putting up goals, I think what he's at 31. I don't know. Maybe 31 is a little bit high, but
he's take a peek here.
Doing really well.
Goals. Alex DeBrincat was at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in goals scored. He's 8 behind Austin Matthews. He's at 31. He's tied with Pasternak. Yeah. And then above those two is Kyle Connor at 33. Ovechkin 34, that's incredible that he's done what he's done. But I think the most surprising one is the guy at number 3. I know that it goes Matthews, Draisaitl. McDavid's below the Brinket and Landeskog, and right below McDavid is Mangiapane. Is that how I say that? Mangiapane or Mangiapane?
Yep. Oh, that's Mangiapane.
Okay. Who's in third place in goal scoring?
Oh, Chris Kreider.
Yes. What?
Yeah.
What? That is pretty spectacular.
And the thing with Kreider, I mean, yes, he's a great player. He's only playing with the Rangers, and what is he, 30 right now? 31.
Yeah.
So and I just sold a card the other day of him, and it was one of those thought processes. If I'm going to sell it. Like,
right.
Is he going to go up anymore? Yeah, sure, could.
Probably.
He wins the Stanley Cup, but then from there, he's 30. Like, it was never, in my eyes, just never a player that was highly collectible. But I didn't really know the Rangers market either. He's always been a solid player.
Well, it could just be having one of those one-offs too. You know what I mean? I think it's what he does in the playoffs and what he does next year. Beyond that really will solidify his market. Just looking through here too, I was looking at goals against average leaders.
Yep.
Shesterkin, Swayman, Anderson, Villahuso, Jacob Markstrom, and then Vanacek, and then Ottinger, and then Jari, and then Vasilevsky, and Francois is 10th. I mean, now I guess I see why Swayman is so highly collected. He's playing really well. Yep. But Series 2, by the way, side note, looking at rookies, Lucas Raymond and Cider. Moritz, is it Cider or Cedar?
I'm not too sure.
They'll both be in Series 2, and their cards are going to go crazy. And then Bunting as well, Michael Bunting. Like, he was in extended, wasn't he? Was it last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, his stuff will probably be expensive. It's probably going up a lot. But anyways, yeah, no, that's going to be fun to follow for sure. I know I've had probably a little bit more come in than you, but have you had anything recently come in that you got pretty excited about? Because I do want to say, if you haven't seen Logan's photos the last 3 weeks, he's got himself a light that his girlfriend won't come down the stairs and steal back from him in the middle of a recording. But you've had some fun photographing too. But I mean, has that been the most exciting thing that you've acquired the last month since you've been on last time?
Yeah, for the most part. I kind of took a little break of buying and trying to flip my gauge on selling a little bit more. But yeah, for the most part, I was waiting for a card to come from Canada and didn't make it. So as far as that, nothing really. I've just been watching the ComC, with the OpenG Platinum, come on there and look for some underpriced players, I would say.
Have you noticed anything, because you're really clued in on the EPAC, which then goes to ComC, which that's been really helpful for me to know that, because as I shared with you, I was able to acquire a flurry that I'll share on here next time that we do an episode. But have you seen the prices of like the Kaprizov and Robertson and some of the bigger rookies? Have they fluctuated? Have they come down, or are they staying strong despite the EPAC release?
For the most part, it's just, well, if I'm looking at ComC, I'm not looking at like past sales, but for the most part, everybody's trying to keep them up to where they were. I don't know. I'm trying to look at. Let me just take a look here. If we look at Kaprizov. Red Prism.
Yeah, because that's just they had a 199. That's the ones that you like to target.
And as far as what their prices are, one bought for 118, so 130, $94, and 94 was January 24th, so it's been a little bit. And where are they now? I mean, none have sold on eBay for some time. Let's see.
Right.
But just I'm ready for them to come down a little bit, because at most I feel like it should be about 50, 60, if that.
And you're basing that off of other players on his skill level, right? Because he's having an incredible year, as is that team again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I haven't looked at his young guns prices, but I know I had an opportunity to grab a few of them this summer, and I just couldn't do it, man. I was like, I can't spend that much on one card. I mean, what if he's terrible this year?
Yep.
He started off really bad, and then he just got on fire there. I have him on my fantasy team too, so goal scoring has not been an issue for me in fantasy this year.
Yeah, and the one that I've been tracking a little bit more is the rainbow, the non-serial numbered. There's the refractor or whatever.
Yeah.
And on Comsy I can pick it up for, I'm not even signed it. Wonderful. It's like $17 for the
Sounds
rainbow.
about right. Yeah.
It just, you go onto eBay and look them up, and you can get them for 13 sometimes, but then sometimes they're like 25, and it just doesn't. It doesn't really make sense to me a little bit.
Well, no, nor does Young Guns when you look at the amount that are produced, but they're the most highly sought after, easily collectible cards made of a player. So a Peachy Platinum, the Rainbow, just like a Topps Chrome Refractor, would be your next choice of a player. So,
and with that thought process is that I'm like, okay, well, if that card can do $20, no problem. What about Jack Hughes Rainbow that you can buy for 10? You know what I mean? If you kind of think about, okay, well, what about the Aho you can buy for 14? Or these other rookies, and I saw that with the Austin Matthews. Speaking off of what I have, I mean, a retro rainbow. Why is that so expensive?
They made less of them back then.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
And it's just the retro card, but
they look really nice too. And I mean, I think it's an expensive but affordable option. Like if Crosby and Ovechkin had them, you'd go for those. I mean, like I just think they're the step below the young guns that you can go for. Like if you want a Kaprizov, you just go grab that rainbow.
Yep.
You don't spend the $100, or it's got to be more now on the young guns. So, yeah, I do appreciate that you're more keyed in on this stuff. It is fun for me to kind of talk about markets beyond Marc-Andre Fleury, because I am very much keyed in on that. And I have to say that our discussions about where a price of a card is has certainly led me to, like, today, for instance, you invited me to a certain Facebook group, and I met a great deal of people there, and found somebody who has, 8 or 9 of the Flurries that I'm looking for. And his original prices that he offered me were really high. And I was like, okay, how do I come back to this person respectfully but informed? Like I already know in my mind what the prices should be, because I've seen enough of them sell, just like you have with other players. But being able to go to completed listings and talk about, using that experience of knowing a market to offer back, like, okay, well, this is where they're selling. I've been tracking this card for a year and a half. Every time it's sold, this is what I feel is fair. And that tends to be a really good approach with most sellers. And I don't know how it is at card shows, because I know, an eBay sale, they think, well, it should be more than that because they're losing a bunch off the top. But I feel like, when you negotiate with somebody and you strike up a conversation, beyond just give me the card because I'm going to buy it and sell it later type mentality. It's about, why are you adding this card, and telling them how much you'll appreciate it. I think that all those things going together tend to work out better than, just trying to be clear cut and dry with your approach to negotiating. Have you seen that too? Like when you go to card shows, because we talked about that last episode with you about striking up. I mean, I feel like it works the same when you're negotiating with somebody through Messenger or whatever too.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on what you're, how much time do you have, or, things like that. Because I mean, right. As far as working online I'm not gonna spend more time on it than without securing it.
Right.
Like if the guy tells me like $80 for the card, then all right, well, we'll see if we can work a deal or something like that. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I've been collecting Kane, and kind of guilt them into. That's kind of how I feel there. So I'm not going to try to guilt them like, that's his price. And the same thing. If I'm going to a card show and I think it's a little bit high, I'm not gonna say, hey, your $40 card. Okay, how about 30? Because I feel like, and that could be a problem that I have too. Is I felt like the guy's listed the card at a decent price, not to make money on somebody, but like, hey, this is the market what it's going for.
Right.
And I kind of want to have some respect where I'm not going to try to rip you off. Like, that's when you're on Instagram and you see those guys, hey, yeah, I'm looking for cards, I'm only paying 75% comps. Okay, yeah, then why are we trying to, I get it, there's people that are like, hey, take all this for 75%,
Mhm.
they want to play that game. Sure.
Especially if you do a bulk deal, because I feel when you do
Yeah.
bulk deal, you can kind of come at it with that approach, because you throw
Yep.
something in there that's maybe not worth as much, but then you throw something else high, so you've got
Yep.
it equaled out.
Yep. But it's just he's the, and I do try not to check check comps when I'm at a card show, just because that guy should have priced it right. But there's been times where I've overpaid on a few things that because I didn't check comps.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of learn who you can I don't want to say trust, but I'm just thinking maybe I'm the idiot for thinking that this guy that's trying to sell cards is doing them at the right. I mean, it's overpaying him
No.
maybe like $10, but
But that's different though, because at first I was like, man, how? Because I feel like I'm trying to come at it from a very genuine perspective, but I'm talking like the last card sold for 70, and they've got $300 on the card. I think
yeah,
that is where I feel like, okay, like a couple of those prices are perfect.
yep.
They look
But it's
great to
like,
me.
if that card was $70, that the last price is 7, and they're selling it at 95.
Oh, then you don't ask. Then there's no negotiation. No,
Yeah,
I see what you're saying now. I think what I
like,
was coming from was that, like, I don't know, $200, and you're like, okay, well, let's have a discussion here. Like, the
yeah,
last one was $75, 77
yep,
or whatever. You want 200. Would you be willing to, like, I think what I started off with today was like, would you be willing to negotiate a little bit, especially knowing
hmm,
these are going to a collection where they're staying. They're not
yeah,
coming here to be moved, which is important to some people. And they said, oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a father and a son. And so I was able to find the evidence of prices. And then I offered a little bit above those to kind of
hmm,
get it in the right spot. And I was under on one, and they said, no, let's get more here with this one. I was like, fine, looks great. So I think, to an extent, I think it's always good to try to get a fair deal. But I'm with you. If it's like 15 to 20% over, I usually don't say anything unless it's a bulk type thing. Then
yep,
I'm like, hey, can we maybe look at this? And I'm cool with these prices. And that's usually where people will go. Like, if you already buy 2 cards from them, you agree to buy 2, then they're
hmm,
willing to maybe bring some money off of a third or fourth one.
hmm.
Have you seen that as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm thinking of like one guy that I've worked with in the past. Is he has his price that's on the card, and he takes off like 20% or 30%, just because more so probably because I've talked to him, had a
Mhm.
conversation other than just cards, and I'm not just another person that goes in there. Hey, can you do $20 on this $40
Yeah.
card? I'm not trying to again, offend, but that's a word
Right.
that kind of, you know,
But I mean, you're thinking about being a seller, at a card shop or a card show. So let's say
hmm,
you and I set up together, and you've got all your cane stuff out, and I've got a couple flurries and some of the ahos, and I've got
hmm,
young guns, and I just got my own little section, and I've got a Gaudreau at $50 for a young gun. The guy goes, "You take 25 for this." I'm more than happy to tell him why the answer is no.
yeah,
I'm not going to just say no. I'm going to say, look, dude, like, let me show you the last 10 that have sold. They're all at 60 to $50. So this is where it's at. I mean, maybe if he's like, I'll take the Gaudreau and I'll take the Aho
yeah.
for $85 instead of 100. That's okay. Yeah, sure. We'll do that.
Like,
That's the kind of negotiating I see.
that's I can understand that. And when you said, oh, you have the good draw for 50, and he comes up, take 25. Like, I shouldn't need to explain why I wouldn't need to take 25 for that $50 card,
Right.
because he knows. I feel like that guy setting an offer on a good draw knows the market for it. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
because I just think of this as when I'm at these card shows here in Fargo, is like everybody's looking for Kaprizov, or just that type of guy.
Yeah,
That's what they're looking for.
the higher end best rookie from last year.
And I'm not really saying higher end. Like higher end for them, for some of these people might be like young guns, and like they kind of know the price of it. Whereas I would be surprised if I put out a Johnny Gaudreau rookie and said, hey, it's let's just say it's available for $40, $10 below what they're going for. I'd be surprised to sell it, just because that's how much people are looking for hockey. And I feel like the Calgary Flames aren't a team that's very sought after.
Yeah, I can see that. I think in general, and maybe this is just my teacher background, I'm very used to providing the why, because I never got the why growing up. And I feel like it's important to me to have the why of something. Yep. So if somebody says, why would you overpay for that Fleury card? Like, you know which one I'm talking about, probably the Stanley Cup autograph. It's super rainbowy that you told me do not pay that much for that card. And now one just sold for $77 a week ago. I overpaid like a son of a gun on that card, but my answer is always like, that is one of the most beautiful cards I've ever seen. Yep. So that's why. And then I made up the difference. I sold something, but I feel like if somebody comes at me, if they hear the why and then say, okay, $45 or $40. Yeah. Now we struck up a conversation. Now I like, who are you collecting? Like, oh yeah, I really like watching this guy play, blah, blah. You were able to get like, okay, like now I'm comfortable taking money off, that's kind of how I feel. Like anytime I've taken money off of a price that I've had, I like to hear about their collecting background, like what motivates them as a collector, and knowing that it's going somewhere where, most of the time I like knowing that it's going somewhere where this person has something vested in collecting this player. So, but I guess when you're at a card show, it's maybe less of that and more of like, what are you just trying to sell it, or, are you stuck on firm on your prices? So definitely another discussion that we can continue once you've set up and done a show. I think that's going to be fun to hear about.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Definitely. I don't know. I mean, if they ask why, then I could elaborate. But I don't feel like they have. If they don't ask, then I don't. I get.
You don't feel obligated to tell them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just part of me. Like, I don't like being just told no. Like, other than like the simple, like, if I see a Fleury and I'm like, hey, would you take $350 for this? And they've got 500 on there. If they say can't do that, it would be nice to know I can't do that because I invested 400 into this card already. Even that tells me that's his threshold. Like this guy, this woman, whoever's got the booth set up, they want to make their money back. Okay, now I know where you're at. I think that's what I like to hear the why for, so I can figure out what the threshold is for negotiating. Because a lot of times of those card shows, depending on the sale, like you say, that's or best offer. A lot of people put that up there unless they state otherwise. And I've only ran into one guy at the National. It wasn't for me, but it was for my friend who ended up being a complete, I'm not going to say any bad words on this podcast, but he wasn't very nice. Yeah. And I hid the card from my friend so he wouldn't ask about it again. So I think after seeing that, that's why it's really important to me to have some kind of a discussion as to why. So, but everybody's different.
Yeah, again, it's probably who the player is and how I don't know. It would be, and plus you'll gauge what kind of collector this person is too. So I mean, it's coming off of the Stern, like, you do 25. No. Well, you'll kind of gauge that, but I'm just saying the general is somebody that I feel like is actually looking for that specific player. Am I looking on? Do I need to move it?
Right.
that's where I'm kind of thought.
Right. Well,
Did I pay more than 25 for the card at the time?
mm-hmm.
That's another factor that could be into it too.
That's
Obviously,
true. That's true.
Given like, I paid 15 for a Lankinen. Am I going to sell the Lankinen for 5? Well, I could, because that's what the market is, and it will go up. Who knows? Does that make sense? Like,
but what I'm hearing from you too is that first approach. If I come up to you and you've got a Lankinen for 15, and I go, take 5 for this, that's a very cold cut, like clear, dry yes or no. And as soon as you say yes or no, I'm moving on to something else.
Yep.
Rather than, hey, what's going on, dude? I see you had this Lankinen at 15. Are you at 10 on this? What about, or start low? I say, what about $5? Because that's where the market's at now, what I'm seeing. Then we've already established some sort of line of communication. Then you and I start talking about, well, I invested 15. I really don't want to lose too much money on it. Then we meet at 10, and then we're both happy. So I think, what I'm hearing, I just want to go to a card show and sit on the other side of the table and just experience people from that angle, because I know how I am, and I know how you are. At least I haven't seen you at a card show, but from what you've told me, I think we both have an emphasis on the communication side of things and striking up some kind of chit chat prior to buying a card. Whether if it's in like a $5 for $10 box, you really don't. You just grab what you want. Say, here you go, here's 5 cards. There's $10. Take care and buy. Yeah. But when you're buying a specific single, I think there needs to be some kind of that if you're hoping to wiggle around on prices,
Yep.
But the genuine attitude you have when you are approaching people, I think is so important, man. And I can't wait for you to put your own booth up and tell stories from both sides of that. It'd be fun.
Actually, I'm doing a table at the end of March with a couple buddies. They're coming down, so looking forward to it.
Dude, I can't. I've got to have you on here at the beginning of April, then, if you're cool with that, so you can just tell stories about your experience, because I want to hear obviously a lot of the positive stories. I can't wait to hear about some of the people you meet, some of the cards that you were surprised to move or you didn't move, and then obviously we can end it on some of the funnier experiences that you have, because collectors, like anybody else in a hobby, can be goofy or weird, if you want to say it in their own right, just with how stone cold they can be sometimes with the lack of emotion. But it's going to be fun experience for you. What are you most looking forward to about that experience? Not being at work. I'm sorry, I just had to say that. Taking a few days off work.
Well, I mean, it's the weekend. It's going to be a weekend, so it's going to be a Saturday. So I'm trying to think hopefully the win-win situation would be I cleared out a lot of inventory and other, it's primarily those $2 to $10 cards that I just have a bunch of them, and it would be a wise idea to just send it all to Compsy and do that. But it's that, and I just clear them out and kind of let's take that money and find a card that I really want to get. Or another win would be, hey, wow, somebody actually had a card I was looking for, which I don't think that would be the case, but that's just another one. And then just enjoying the experience of being on the other side of the table and just seeing that. But the negative part is it's going to be 9 to 4, 9 to 5 or something like that. And typically when I go to these card shows, I'll show up at 10. I'm not one of the first ones, because in my mind, no one's going to have something that I'm really, really looking forward to. It just, I go with that at that type of personality, because hey, that off chance that I actually find something that I'm looking for is going to make the day so much better.
Right. No, glass half empty, but at the same time, it's more of a low expectation approach. And I think that going into collecting sometimes can be really helpful. It's like if you buy a box. I mean, I bought a box of O-Pee-Chee, and it's not like I was hoping I would get any really good players, but when you get 3 checklists that are your numbered cards, you're like, okay, how do I find the positive approach to this? But I went into it with no expectations, and I think if you do that with card shows, bound to be surprised, even if it's with like a $15 card that you've never seen in the last 3-4 years, and you finally found one. So,
yep. And with that whole expectations, especially being looking for Kane cards, I mean, obviously, I feel like I'm not going to find the cards that I really truly want to, but it's got made me look out for other cards,
right.
and I mean, finding a few Ovechkin inserts, they got Broder, just cards that I don't know, I really wouldn't go after, but it's like, wow, that's actually a pretty good price, and they don't have it, they have it marked at what, dollar card. Okay, cool. Let's go with it. Let's just, and that's kind of a weird too, is because I'm starting to get a bunch of cards that I really truly wouldn't be going after, but
Mm-hmm.
they're star players, and might as well, if I'm going to have that insert, I'd rather have a star player than nobody.
Right. Well, can we end on this? I know what card you were referring to, and I think it's a fun story to tell people. Like, look through the dollar boxes. If I can somehow hint toward the card, you got a card within the last few months that was an absolute steal. That somebody did not realize was in a dollar box, correct?
Oh yeah.
Can you share your, which I'm assuming is your greatest steal that you've ever had at a card show?
Yeah, it's somewhere around. It's
I saw it earlier when we were chatting. I don't know if you can find it quick enough.
I don't even know what I did with that whole stack either.
While you're doing that, I'll share with everybody my most okay.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. I asked you first, and you have it there. So your greatest steal at a show ever is by far, in my opinion, this one you're about to show us.
Yeah, a Ovechkin Silver Prism. Guy had it in the he was primarily a football, basketball, baseball seller, and I was like, "Hey, you got any hockey?" And he's like, "Oh, just a little box over there." And I looked through it, and it was full of just your base cards. For example, the Blackhawks are on right now. Sorry.
That's
funny. Notification. Didn't know that. I'm watching Carolina, but. It's just a little box, and I looked in the box, and it was, he had some Prism cards, but for the most part, it was, I got a bunch of star players, and they're all top loaded, and they're just base cards. So, dollar card, trying to get rid of them, and they had some inserts in there and stuff like that. But then I stumbled on the Ovechkin Silver Prism, and immediately was like, "Holy cow, this is in here! Yeah, this is real." Let's see, how do we want to go about this here? So I just picked out probably about 10 other cards that I thought were kind of neat, and just put them in handed them to the guy, and he's like, "Yeah, $10." Okay, went about my way, and sure enough, I got it here, and I'm thinking about gonna probably send it in for grading just to have it slabbed up, and it's $1 for the card, and we'll see what happens when it comes back. I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, isn't that worth like 200 times more than the dollar you paid at least?
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, because when I first found it, I thought it was only like $110, $120 card, whatever. But it wanted just sold previously for I think $300, $250, something like that.
Those Prism Silvers were only 2 per box, and so
really. I don't know that.
I mean, you can watch Chris Justice break a case of it on his YouTube channel, Cards Infinity. And if I'm correct, 2 came out of, because you have the other Prisms in there. I believe you only got 2 per box. Like, breaking that product was not good. Not good at all.
I remember opening a box, and I came back into the store afterwards. It was like, this was the worst product I've ever opened.
Yeah, it's a base card fest, and it was built like Topps Chrome, where you were the only things you were really guaranteed. You'd get some inserts that were not refractors usually, but you just get 2 refractors a box. That was what it was set at, which is why they sold so well. Because you have to imagine the print run's not very high on those. I mean, I've seen 2 Fleury Silvers other than the one that I bought, and that's it. So I would go to venture that the print runs in the 100 or less range, maybe 200.
I would think more than that.
It was a big set too.
they're, I would think, yes, big set, but the fact is, like, they had a lot of retail too.
Oh,
You had
that's
the
right.
Target exclusives, the Walmart exclusives, and I mean, I look at it like this: is you can go buy Prism football retail, and you can pull silvers in there, just like we could
I
do
don't
it.
think you could pull silvers in the retail
I don't know,
hockey though. I
like,
thought it was, from what
I
I
don't.
remember, I thought it was just the greens and the red and
Well,
the pulsars at Target, pulsars at Walmart. Like, I don't think silvers were in anything else other than hobby. But if anybody's watching and wants to correct me on that, go for it. But I
okay,
think they're a lot less frequent than you might think. I mean, I see
okay.
more reds and greens and blues than I do
Yeah.
those. I hardly ever see the silvers. That's why it being a $20 card is in my display case, because I feel
Yeah.
like it's one of the tougher ones you could hope to find.
Okay, I didn't really, like I just said, I just was kind of assuming that they had
Right.
those in there, and
Well, you
just
would think they would, because
how they do it
nowadays they
nowadays.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays they are. Huh.
But I don't know. It was just one of those where I'll just, I'll put it off to the side and figure out what I want to do with it.
Right.
Obviously, had a lot of had a lot of interest from other people that I, kind of showed it to, and I didn't really want to move it just because of, obviously this would be a perfect time to move it, but it's kind of it's a cool card, and I would like to get a Kane one. I have to get a Kane silver one of these days, but
Be great if you could trade it just straight up, or I don't know if the values are similar, maybe not, but it'd be great if you could use it to get like the Kane silver plus something else back.
yeah, the Kane silver I think is. I saw one go for like 75, but then I saw one go for I think 30 to 40, something like that.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was that much cheaper. It's kind of surprising.
Yep.
Well, speaking of graded cards, this is only the second graded card I've purposely bought of Fleury, because I've never seen a raw copy since I was collecting. But another insert, I think, well, it's in Metal Universe this last year, and the checklist was bizarre to say the least. There are no legends and a couple guys that you're like, oh, that's kind of cool that they get. Like, wasn't it like not Shea Theodore? There was somebody that was in that set where you're just like, okay. I think maybe Alex Pierangelo or something, or however you say his name.
Mark
But
Stone, Roman Yossi.
I mean, Mark Stone was the best player, best skater on Vegas. He could have been MVP if it wasn't for a couple other really great players. But I was finally able to get a jambalaya of Fleury, which was pretty exciting. And it's apparently a pop 2, and the other one just sold a week after this for a little bit more. So I feel pretty happy. It was not cheap though. So it's just, I've never had a jambalaya card in my collection, so I'm quite excited. They look spectacular. And you and I talked. You have Kane from this year, or do you have it from I think it's a different year, right?
Yeah, different year. I think it's the 2013 one.
Okay.
13, 14 maybe. I don't really. I couldn't tell you.
I think it's 12, 13 actually, because I based the year off of his mask. This was the first year he wore the flower mask thing on the top of his helmet. So yeah, so it really cool to own one, and hopefully a raw one comes up so I can do something with that later down the road. But it's really cool to have it in the display case. I've never owned a jambalaya before, and they carry some weight, as you know, from the basketball market too. So
now you need to get the hot gloves.
I know I've been waiting for that card to come up, because you have the Crawford and it looks amazing, but it's I've not seen one. So
there's that one guy on Instagram that was selling some of those, and I was like, no.
The guy that has a Fleury had built the whole set, and I feel guilty asking him to break it up, so I can't do that. Cool, dude. Well, hey, this has been a fun chat, and as usual, the two of us being teachers, it's hopefully people that have listened have enjoyed it, but also learned something, taken something away from it. But it's going to be exciting to have you back on here in a month or so and talk about your card show experience. It's going to be fun to hear about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on. It's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's hope the Blackhawks and Fleury get a win against the Lightning and ruin their day. That would make me happy. And we'll catch everybody on the next one. Take care. See ya.
See ya.